You ever have one of those days where you feel like your entire job is just waiting? Waiting for feedback, waiting on a sign off, waiting for that one green light before you can actually do your job? Well, if you've ever been trapped in that kind of approval hell, you know just how maddening it is. Turns out this isn't just you, it's a full blown organizational sickness. And today we're going to give you both the diagnosis and the cure. So, I'll ask you straight up, does this feel a little too familiar? Are your projects always stalling out? Is your team's momentum constantly getting shattered? If you're nodding along right now, trust me, you are not alone. This is hands down one of the most common and most damaging problems in the modern workplace.
And there's actually a name for this condition. It's called organizational paralysis. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. The whole system just seizes up. Progress grinds to a halt, not because of a lack of talent or a lack of resources, but because the culture has made everyone psychologically and operationally tethered to just waiting for permission. Okay, so like any illness, this paralysis has some very clear and often really devastating symptoms. And we're not just talking about missing a deadline on a marketing report. No, the real-world consequences can be absolutely massive, affecting everything from public safety to national infrastructure.
Let me just throw a number at you. 869. That's how many high-rise buildings in the UK were recently just stuck, completely stalled, waiting for mandatory safety approvals before critical repair work could even start. I mean, think about that. People were living in temporary housing, still paying mortgages on flats they knew were unsafe, all because the system was paralyzed.
And this sickness is everywhere you look. In housing, it means people are literally displaced from their homes. In global construction, from Pakistan to Morocco, huge projects get abandoned because of permit delays. In the software world, slow feedback loops lead to something called gold plating, where developers just keep adding features in a vacuum. And in healthcare, nurses waiting around for doctors to do their rounds leads to very real delays in patient care and massive burnout. It's a universal poison.
All right, so if we're going to treat this thing, we have to understand where it's coming from. We've got to diagnose the root causes. And it really boils down to two sources of infection: our own internal psychology and the external company habits that feed right into it. So the first root cause is something called maladaptive perfectionism. Now, this is not the good kind of perfectionism, not about striving for excellence. No, this is a deep-seated fear of failure, where even a tiny mistake feels like the end of the world. And to cope with that anxiety, people develop what are called safety behaviors, like constantly, excessively seeking reassurance before taking a single step. They're not actually looking for guidance. They're trying to offload the responsibility of being wrong onto someone else.
And this pairs dangerously with the second psychological driver, learned helplessness. This is what happens when your past experiences at a company have taught you that taking any initiative on your own is either pointless or, even worse, dangerous, right? When every independent action you've ever taken has been second-guessed, overruled, or criticized, you learn pretty quickly that the safest and maybe the only path forward is to just sit there and wait for explicit instructions. And you can see exactly how these internal feelings create all this external chaos. That fear of negative evaluation, yep, that's why your inbox is flooded with emails where everyone and their cousin is CC'd. That deep feeling of learned helplessness, well, that's why you see incredibly smart, capable people sitting passively in meetings, just waiting to be told what to do, even when there's a crisis unfolding. The internal state creates the external dysfunction. So we've looked at the symptoms, we've diagnosed the illness. Now for the good part. Let's talk about the cure. And the great news is this thing is highly treatable, but the treatment doesn't start with some new software or process. It begins with a fundamental shift in how leaders think. And the very first shift in mindset is understanding the difference between one-way and two-way doors. Okay, so type 1 decisions are one-way doors. They're irreversible, high-stakes things like launching a flagship product. You walk through that door, there's no coming back. Those require slow, careful thought. But here's the thing. The vast majority of decisions we make at work are type 2 or two-way doors. They are reversible. If you make the wrong call, you can just walk back through the door and try something else. We paralyze ourselves and our teams by treating every single two-way door like it's a one-way street. This is exactly where having a bias for action comes in. And this quote just sums it up perfectly. Waiting around for 100% certainty isn't just slow, it's a strategic mistake. The highest performing organizations, they act when they have about 70% of the information they wish they had. And why? Because the cost of delay is almost always higher than the cost of making a mistake that you can fix on the fly.
Now, to really empower this kind of action, leaders can borrow a super powerful tool from the military. It's called commander's intent. So instead of micromanaging the how, you just clearly define the what and the why. You tell your team, the goal is to take that hill. You don't tell them the exact path to run. That way, if their planned route is blocked by enemy fire, they don't just stop and wait for new orders. They adapt. They find another way up because they understand the ultimate goal. They have the intent. Okay, so let's get really practical here. Shifting a mindset is great, but you need some actual tools to make it stick. This section is the prescription. These are the concrete frameworks you and your team can start using tomorrow. Two of the absolute best frameworks out there are RACI and RAPID. RACI is perfect for just clarifying who owns what on a task. You know, who's responsible, who's accountable, consulted, and informed. RAPID, on the other hand, is built for speed, especially on those high-stakes decisions, because it assigns one single person the D, the power to decide. The whole point of both is to just eliminate that deadly ambiguity about who gets to make the call. And hey, this isn't just for leaders. As an individual, you can build your own little toolkit for autonomy. Start using that 70% information rule for yourself. Or try this. This is huge. Default to action communication. So instead of asking, can I do X, you send a message that says, my plan is to do X by Friday, unless I hear any objections. See what that does? It shifts the burden from you asking for permission to them having to stop you. It's a game changer. And here is a super simple brain hack to overcome that personal hesitation in the moment. The second you feel that instinct to act on something, but you feel your brain starting to pump the brakes and overthink it, just start counting down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. That simple little countdown interrupts the habit of hesitation and physically launches you into motion before doubt can grab hold. Okay, so let's put this all together. Here's a 60-day recovery plan. For the first month, you're in diagnosis mode. You audit where all the delays are happening, and you clearly define that commander's intent for your key projects. Then the next month is all about execution. You launch small autonomy pilots on some low-risk projects, and you shift your whole team's communication style to that default to action model we just talked about. Bit by bit, you build the muscle of decisiveness. So we'll leave you with this final thought. You know, it's really easy to talk about these big, grand cultural changes, but real autonomy, real change, it starts with a single action. So whether you're a leader or an individual contributor, ask yourself this question right now. What is one small two-way door decision that you can either make yourself or fully delegate to someone else today, right now? Because that's where the cure begins.